With this session update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. The Senate considered a bill that would make changes to the governor's ability to extend a peacetime emergency by requiring that the legislature approve a 30-day extension. Currently, the legislature can only deny an extension. Here are some highlights from the Senate debate.
When Section 12 of statute was envisioned, it was amended to create those emergency powers we're currently under right now by the executive branch. I don't think the authors necessarily envisioned the use of those powers for months, let alone over a year as we are right now. Yet that's what's happened. Our Constitution creates three co-equal branches of government: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. Those branches are made to work together, not rule over each other. Seeing how the emergency powers have been used under Section 12 and the stress of that use, I believe that there is an imbalance that has become very obvious, and that balance needs to be restored. We need to become co-equal branches of government again. Senate File 4 returns that balance. It makes the legislative branch active in the emergency powers, not passive. It makes the legislative branches have to vote to extend the emergency powers that the executive branch implements. Right now, as you know, we can take votes in each of the bodies to remove the powers, but that makes us a passive participant. By us actually having to take an affirmative vote, take an affirmative action every 12 months, we become active participants. It makes us partners with the executive branch.
Yes, indeed, there does come a time for the end of emergency powers, but this nation is not at that time. 48 of our 50 states still operate with a governor with emergency powers. What Senate File 4 proposes to do is not to work with the legislature, but to provide the majority in the Senate with an ability to veto and block the governor's emergency powers. If 48 out of 50 states in this country, 53 of our 55 territories, and our president still operate under emergency powers, then I ask you members, is this the time when it looks to you like emergency powers need to come to an end? Let's take the great state of Texas. That governor just removed the mask mandate, and I think you'll hear some comments today about public health. But what you'll also find out is that the governor of Texas maintains his emergency powers. So it's hard to find support for emergency powers in Minnesota by looking at what's going on in the rest of the country. But in reviewing Senate File 4, I certainly heard this word a lot: gridlock. What Senate File 4 would require is that both chambers of the legislature agree to extend the governor's emergency powers. I thought I heard the expression political allies refusing to hold the executive branch accountable. I think what you mean is the other chamber agrees with the exercise of emergency powers. That's a little different. In Senate File 4, the requirement of both chambers to agree is the biggest flaw in the bill. Emergencies are a really bad time to say to the public, hey, we need to give 3 days notice to the legislature so they can hold committee hearings, because then they might provide relief.
We will do what needs to be done, but there has to be collaboration and balance, and the voices across Minnesota need to be heard. We are a year into this fight. We will be much more effective if we can be more collaborative. And that means more voices at the table. That means solutions based on the transparent process that the legislature has, just like we did at this time last year.
It's ironic that we take up Senate File 4 on the Ides of March, the date that the Roman Senate rose up in rebellion against Julius Caesar to prevent him from becoming a dictator and converting their republic to an empire. History has judged that the senators overreacted to the threat and did irreparable harm to their cause, speeding the end of the republic. Governor Walz is not a dictator, and we here are not murderers, but the tension between legislative and executive power is timeless and necessary, and I hope to work with my colleagues to resolve it for our day. Senate File 4 is not that resolution.
I'm just a country attorney from Northwest Minnesota. But when I look at this, when I look at the documents supporting this, I don't see an end to the emergency powers written in there anywhere. What I do see is simply a way to engage the legislature in defining what our policies are going to be. And I am confused when I hear that this is supposed to end the governor's emergency powers and that he should be able to dictate what we're going to be doing as a state, and yet I hear at the same time, in the next breath, we need to be working together. I think what Senator Osmek, Senate File 4 does is allows the state legislature and the governor to work together.
I believe Governor Walz has used the law afforded to him that was lawfully passed and signed into law judiciously. He's had to because he's had no partner. And you know what? Senate File 4 is not going to require him to have a partner. It's not going to achieve what the majority party wants it to. All it's going to do is continue down this road of partisan attacks that has really turned off Minnesotans. The legislature is a deliberative body. It is not set up to react in a quick, expedient, decisive manner, which is exactly what a pandemic or a peacetime emergency would require.
He has used his emergency powers to do a one-size-fits-all for the entire state when there might be an issue in Bemidji, might be an issue in Minneapolis, there might be an issue in a pocket here or a pocket there. That is the debate. Whether we're going to continue that style of government or not. And then Senator French talked about, well, it would be too bad because the federal government has all this money they're giving us. Folks, if we're going to leave emergency powers in place because the federal government is trying to take over our state government and keep emergency powers in place for an extended period of time, that is the wrong reason to take federal money.
So we ought to pass this bill today because this would correct what the Supreme Court and what the Constitution declares to be the roles of the various branches of government. And the reason why I believe that the 30-day window for the initial order can be proper, and then the legislature needs to come back and they would have to vote on whether to proactively extend the powers, is because then at that point, those legislative votes become the policy votes to move forward, that the legislature would be setting a policy forward with its votes to further continue either the emergency orders as written or however they needed to be modified. That would then be the legislature correctly exerting its role to set policy then that the executive is supposed to enforce.
I want to start by reflecting on something that the bill's author just said, because I think it is absolutely salient to this discussion and to this bill and to how we vote on this bill. He said, nothing gets done around here fast. Couldn't agree with him more. And therein lies the problem. We are not built to be an expeditious body. We are not built to make quick responses, which is exactly what is called for in times of an emergency. Hence the need for the executive branch, who is in a position to do that, particularly in the case of a historic pandemic.
I cannot imagine that the founders that set up our Constitution ever dreamed that they would be used in this way. And when the pandemic was raw and real and new and nobody knew what needed to be done, the House and Senate came together and passed $500 million of resources for the governor almost immediately, like a snap of the fingers, for beds and masks and ventilators and whatever was needed, because we all worked together in that moment. But then that first part subsided, and the governor was hanging on to those powers and making decisions by himself on everything from businesses to kids not in school, closing churches, not allowing people to be evicted out of their apartments, and on and on and on. And all of those, frankly, should have been discussed with the legislative branch.
There being 38 ayes and 29 nays, the bill is passed and it's titled agreed to.
To continue following these issues and more, watch legislative coverage Monday through Friday on the PBS Minnesota channel or visit our website, www.senate.mn/media.